Hello again, welcome to the Memoir channel. My name is Nikki Smart, and today I'm going to be speaking with Tom Ross, I hope I'm saying that right, about his memoir, Don't Call Me Jupiter, Book 1, Tightrope, Memoir of a Reluctant Hippie Kid. So yeah, Tom had quite the upbringing, and I'm not even sure if upbringing is the right word because he was just sort of left to fend for himself. And I mean, I'm smiling not because it's funny. It's actually kind of horrific what he's endured, but he writes about it in such a funny way that you cannot help but laugh. It reminded me of Running with Scissors with that same dark humor where you find yourself laughing and you feel guilty because you know this isn't funny and you shouldn't be laughing, but it is funny. So he's got that tragic comedy thing and he really gets it down well. And I'm sure that his humor helped him enormously throughout this very strange childhood that he had. So Tom has written three memoirs. They all go in succession. So Don't Call Me Jupiter, Part 1, Tightrope, is the book that we're talking about today. So let's go and talk to Tom and find out everything we can. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the Memoir channel.
Hi, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I know it's your birthday today, so thank you for joining on your birthday.
I know I'm officially a Beatles song old today. I'm
Oh,
64 years old. Yeah.
wow. Okay. Well, are people still feeding you and loving you and doing all of that?
I'm in good hands. Yeah. No
Okay.
complaints. I'm
Marvelous.
so happy you found the book because it's not necessarily a mainstream title. And maybe there was something about the cover that drew it to you, but I'm really glad it's an honor that you even found
Well,
it.
no,
That's why
thank
I'm
you.
really
I,
happy to
I
be
really
here.
enjoyed it. And as you know, I listened to the audio book, and you were the one that narrated it. And I got to
I
say,
think if it's a memoir, it should be read
yes,
by the author because it's such a personal story. Now, I'm not Britney Spears either, who hired somebody else to read her memoir, but
right.
then I also don't know how much of it she actually wrote either. But writing the book obviously was a very personal experience, and to some degree, I've worked in the industry making TV commercials, and I'm
Oh,
familiar
okay.
with audio tracks, and I like to do stupid imitations. So,
You did great. You did little
oh, thank you.
singing voices, you did accents, and your pacing was lovely. And no, I thought you did a really, really good job with the narration.
Thank you so
So
much.
yeah, yeah. But I had a question now. Well, first, let's just sort of say what the overall, what your book is about, just for people that don't know anything about it.
Okay. Um, it's Don't Call Me Jupiter. See
Hmm.
if I can get that in
Yeah, we
focus.
we can see it. Yeah,
And it turned into a trilogy. So I obviously had a lot to say.
right,
For a long time, I thought I could squeeze it into one book, but I realized that as the story started to unfold, it wasn't going to fit into a conventional book. The subtitle is called It's the Story of a Reluctant Hippie Kid. And to some degree, I think that sums up the book because we started as a very conservative Midwestern family. And then after my parents got divorced, they ended up on opposite coasts. And we were in San Francisco in time for the Summer of Love. And after my mom's second divorce, she really embraced her inner hippie. And there were pros and cons to that. And for
okay,
me, I never went along with it to the same degree that she kind of hoped I would. And so that's kind of how the title of the book came about.
right.
And I was kind of motivated to share my story because I knew, even as a little kid, it was different than what most people, what my peers were
Right,
experiencing.
right. And I mean, I think I read somewhere that you said you sort of took notes throughout your childhood. So you
I
were,
did. I kept, my mother actually kept journals, and
mhm.
my sisters had diaries, and I like the term journaling better. So I was taking a lot of notes as a kid, but there was also a point where I got so frustrated with trying to write a book, I threw them all away.
Oh,
But having had the opportunity to write them down helped imprint the memories
right,
into my
right.
into my soul. So I didn't forget that much, but I also felt like it doesn't matter. They're still my memories, they're inside. I threw away yearbooks. I got so frustrated at one point, I just sort of gave up on the project.
Wow. Because I mean, there's a lot in there. And it is, I mean, you'd have to have remembered an awful lot, exactly, because you're really giving a very clear picture of where you are and what you're doing. And so, I mean, I'm
I
glad you
have
took
a couple
notes.
weird things going for me. One, I have what I call voice recognition technology, and
Hmm.
it goes along with faces too. And for me, it's really easy to hear a song. Each of the book is subtitled after a song. Book one is Tightrope, and a
Ah,
particular song by Leon Russell really brings me back to a particular point in time and space. And once I'm in that zone, I actually feel like I'm surrounded by my family back in 1974.
wow.
And I can see everyone's faces. I can hear the music. I can smell the weed that my mom was smoking in the room. I can see the dust mites, floating in the
Wow.
air. So I feel like for a person that is interested in sharing their story, I have some of these just gifts that allow me to really sink back into particular moments in time. I was also
Wow.
surrounded by some people characters with really strong characteristics. So, no, I can't remember every word that was uttered.
Sure.
I don't have that kind of memory, but
Yeah.
I know the spirit and the scope of each person and what they would say and how they would sound in
Right.
these situations. So, these little movies play back in my mind, and then, it's my process to just get them out as quickly as possible, as close as possible to what I'm seeing, feeling, and hearing. And then for me, I go back and I do rewrite after rewrite after rewrite because I tend to write more words than are necessary. And by narrowing down the text a little bit, the story has a better chance of, being
Right.
well paced.
But I think you said somewhere too that it took you 20 years to write the first sort of
It
thing, but
did.
then once you got that out the way, then you were a lot quicker with part two and part three.
That is correct. So I
Yeah.
did start the project around 2001 or two, and the first book came out in 2021. So it was a 20-year project. And as I mentioned before, it wasn't continuous, and I let it go off and on many
Right,
times.
right, right.
And I had some people that read early drafts of it that were really inspired by it and encouraged me to pick it up again, which I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
But it's not the type of writing process I recommend for other people. And fortunately, over time, I did feel like I got better at it. Like you said, the second and the third book in the series took 6 to 8 months to write,
That's quick.
but then I was still in that rewriting process. And I did add another book to my memoirs. It's an easier read. It's probably a less of an emotional read, but it's
Hmm.
a book called Evergreen Lodge, a memoir. And it's about a couple summers where I worked at a resort just outside of Yosemite National Park.
Okay.
And that one also took about 8 months to write. And then I was into the rewriting part.
I mean, 8 months is quick. That's pretty
Yeah,
quick.
it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I gained a little bit of confidence too. When I first put the
Right.
book out, I didn't know if it would make sense to anybody.
Right.
You get so close to a project, and yes, I had some beta readers that said, "Yeah, it's good. It makes sense." But I didn't know that until strangers started reading it,
Yeah.
and then once they were connecting with the stories in the book, that was like a big sigh of relief. I was like, "Oh, okay, it actually reads like a book." That
Well,
was my goal.
I mean, for me, it was so funny. I mean, your humor is great, and I realize you use it probably to protect yourself and what maybe deflect or lessen the pain of it. But I just think you have such a gift there in being able to see the funny side in everything. Just about every horrible situation you're in, you make it so enjoyable to read. And I was saying I almost feel a bit guilty for laughing because you're like, this isn't really funny, but you make it funny.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you found the humor
Yeah,
funny. It was, yes, it was a survival technique.
yeah,
My sister Chris was really good about saying you have to learn to laugh at yourself. And when
yeah.
you do that, you release yourself of some of the pain and agony.
Right.
And no, we weren't laughing at some of the horrible
No, I'm
situations
sure.
at the time. But when we would look back on them, we were able to package them in with
Right.
some humor. And
Yeah,
I think there's so much trauma and there's so much, um, I call it bad craziness that happens in the book that it needed the humor to keep
right.
readers moving along as well.
Yeah,
And had I not had such a strange childhood, or maybe because I had such a strange childhood, my sense of humor got fairly developed. And
right.
I do feel like I'm lucky that I can manage to see humor in some pretty awful situations.
Yeah,
The theme of the book, overall theme, might be abandonment. And so when you say, oh, it's a funny book about abandonment,
yeah.
a lot of readers or potential readers are like, but
Exactly.
how can that be? Those are two
Yeah,
opposite forces.
right.
But I like to think that they do come together, and that's just part of the unique story that I've
Yeah.
put out there
No,
for
I think you
people.
did a really great job because you're quite right. If it was with a serious tone, it would be a lot to actually try and
Mhm.
digest, and it's much more palatable if it's presented in this way. Yeah. Is there maybe a part you would like to read us?
Sure. I'm going to read a little bit from the beginning because it kind of sets the mood
All
of
right.
where we were at. This is after my mother's divorce, and she's called for a family meeting. We're in Davis, California, which is in the Sacramento Valley,
Hmm.
and we've all gathered in the living room, and she's about to break some news to us. Well, says Molly, biting her nail, jiggling her leg, staring at Mom to get the ball rolling. But our mother mare is moving slow, methodically, attaching what's left of the joint to a roach clip and passing it gently to Shelley. Change is the only constant in the universe. You might have noticed there's an age in the word change. So as we age, we change with every passing moment. Isn't that beautiful? Oh boy, here we go. I don't know why she does this, or who taught her, or if she read it in one of her New Age books, or came up with it herself while on drugs. But this word within a word thing is extremely annoying to me. Probably because I know I'll never be able to get this game of hers out of my head. There's a tit in titillate. There's a butt in butter. There's a penis in peninsula. There's an ouch in touch. There's an ass in passion, a fun and dysfunctional. And this, rearranged, is just shit. Am I doomed to forever rearrange letters inside of words just like her? The only difference is that while she looks for deep, hidden meanings to interpret and share, I'm just looking for a laugh. I'm well prepared and begin with an exaggerated eye roll. Well, there's an ass in grass, and when you smoke too much of it, you sound like one. The sarcasm darts out, a winged insect. Our eyes meet. The corners of her smile sink. She raises a brow and gives me the look. Mom does not like to be mocked, especially about things she takes seriously, like herself. She inhales quickly and exhales calmly. Peggy moved out of her house in San Rafael a couple of months ago. Now she's renting a huge house in San Anselmo. I mean, huge. So we're moving in with them. She breaks the news so casually, as if reading from a menu. We sit there shell-shocked, dumbfounded, and silent. Shelley and Chris look at each other with a mix of anger and despair. Molly shakes her head in disbelief, her big green eyes already filling with tears. Alex continues petting the cat, blissfully too young to care. I look at my mother as if she's a side dish I didn't order.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that thing, your mom is handing this joint around. What age are you? You know, the range. What's your
So
age range?
well, her philosophy was once you reach the age of 10 years old, you're old enough to smoke marijuana. So even though my brother was in the room and we were kind of keeping him from smoking it, by the time we're in our yellow bus, which is on the cover of the book,
Yeah.
um, he's taking hits off the joint. And he was probably in about the fourth grade then.
Wow.
And the rules were kind of blurry in the bus because, it just, we weren't in our home, but it wasn't like mom was exactly enforcing any or many rules in the house at all,
Right.
except her own, which were basically to just, live life as freely as possible. And as long as you're not hurting other human beings and you're in touch with Mother Nature, then everything's groovy and
Right.
beautiful.
But I mean, so then you kind of all got dispersed at one point and you were all living and go spend the night, or I
Right.
don't know how long you were all. in separate places where you landed up in somebody's garage, right? An
I did.
ex-boyfriend or something.
So that's kind of the launching point for the book.
Right.
And I wanted to start it there because, like I said before, it's easy to put myself back into a place and start having the memories come back to me. And we were only in San Anselmo living with our God family for a couple of months. It might have been 2.5 months. And then we came back to Davis, but we didn't have a house anymore.
Right.
So our mom was like, "It's nothing to worry about. You'll just stay with friends, and once I get my act together, we'll all move back in together." Well, my sisters were older. They had good friends that they could drop in on and
Hmm.
stay with. My little brother had a little buddy he could drop in and stay with. I had been sort of lying to my friends, not
Right.
really letting them know that I was a hippie kid. I had clothes and a personality I presented at school. And then to please my mother, I had kind of a separate wardrobe and, different words I used and even a different personality to sort of win her approval. So
Yeah.
I told my mom, there's no way we're dropping the hippie bomb on any of my friends. And I asked if I could stay with one of hers that I really
Hmm.
loved, a woman named Donna Rao. And she goes, "No, Donna and I aren't friends anymore. That's not an option." So the only option that we could come up with was to stay with her ex-boyfriend, Cliff. And so I got dropped off there in the middle of the night. He set up a couch in his
So
garage,
wild.
and, and that's where I lived for a couple, 2.5 months.
Yeah.
But it was a good place to start the book for me
Yeah.
because it's pretty gripping. But it was also easy for me to go back and remember what it felt like to be in that cold garage and have cold fingers and being lying on a really crappy couch that was lumpy. And
Mm,
but I could remember like questioning, how did I get here? And so that became the stepping off
right.
point for the
I mean,
book.
I think your introduction with Cliff is, he says something like, Cowabunga, buddy, to you. And you go, Cowabunga, like, and I think you're 12 maybe. And you go, does he think I know that word? The word I use for him is motherfucker.
He was trying to bond with me. I think
Right.
Cliff was trying to be as nice as possible. He knew it was a
Right.
bad situation.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. But yeah, I was pissed off at the world. I was pissed off at my
Oh,
mother. I
rightly
didn't like the life. I
so.
didn't like the hand I'd been dealt. And, I
Yeah.
had to march back to school on an empty stomach. And, it was basically a college crash house. And
Right.
I get there with messy hair and no books. And, I'm sitting back in the classes I had left just, a few months before.
Yeah.
People were like, give me crap, like, "Gosh, Tom, I thought you moved away." And I'm like, "Well, I'm back." And they weren't
Yeah.
exactly, celebrating. They just thought it was weird.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was really sad for you that you were the one worrying about whether your school records had been transferred and things like that. I mean, you had to be your own parent. And I feel
We
like
kind of did.
your eldest sister, Chris, seemed to have been your sort of substitute parent and sort of gave you the comfort and the wisdom at times that you really needed, right?
Yeah, Chris
Um,
was actually, Shelley's the oldest in the family.
oh, I
There's a
thought it was
lot of
Chris.
characters.
Okay.
And then Chris, but Chris had the maternal instincts. And the more my mother checked out, the more she stepped up to take care of us.
Yeah.
My mom would take off and be gone for, a few days, up to a week sometimes.
Right.
And there was no explanation. She was just gone. But Chris took it upon herself to make sure, we still had something to eat, that we did
Yeah.
our share of the chores. So, she had these great maternal instincts that really helped keep us together when things were falling apart.
There was one thing she said, and I wrote it down because I was like, wow, it's so. Oh, you were upset about something. I can't quite remember what. And she says to you, "You can handle this. It'll be over." And you want to be able to look back with pride at how you handled yourself.
hmm
And I went, wow, that's such wisdom because she couldn't have been very much older than you.
No, and I guess a couple of years when you're at those tender age, those really
Yeah,
impressionable years do make a difference. And she had a really good wide variety of friends. She was super confident. She was smart. I was a little bit more self-conscious. So I think that she brought some perspective to the table that
Right.
was wise for her age. And, those little things really made a big difference in our
Yeah,
lives.
no, absolutely. I mean, the other thing that just kind of blew my mind was when you told your mother that, um, I think was it Cliff as well, when he's going to have the acid party on Christmas, and you're like, I would prefer to be somewhere else. And she's like, no, it'll be great, a great experience for you. Like, oh my God, you poor
Yeah.
thing. Oh,
Again, that's a lot to put on a kid.
it's
And
crazy. Yeah,
I chose
yeah.
not to take acid at that time
I'm
in my
very
life,
glad. I'm
even
very
though
glad
it
you didn't.
was highly encouraged that I did. But what I did was kind of keep an eye on everybody
Right.
because I was sort of freaked out. I thought, I had no idea what was going to happen. Decorating the house and preparing it was kind of entertaining. And again, that's sort of a funny way of dealing with something that's pretty tragic,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. And I mean, again, you had to be the adult. You're the kid and you're the one looking after everybody. So wrong, so wrong. All right. So uh, the other thing that, I mean, obviously the end of it is quite shocking, when you get the phone call. And I mean, that just, yeah. And I'm listening and it comes very close to the end. And then it just sort of says, well, it's the end. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait, I want to know what's going to happen. So I thought that was quite effective because it definitely makes me want to now get book two so that I can kind of continue with you on your
I
journey.
hope you do
Yeah,
continue the
yeah,
journey
yeah,
and take this ride with my family all the
right.
way through the end of book three. So
Yeah,
I'm living at Cliff's house, and it's kind of like a cliffhanger ending.
yeah,
My mom does finally rent an apartment. My brother refers to it as the Avocado Apartments, even though it's Alvarado Parkside Apartments. But there was this sense of joy, we were finally reunited
right.
in this tiny townhouse apartment. And to me, I don't know why, but family was always, really a high priority and the togetherness. And even as a kid, I hated being separated from my family.
Yeah,
And once we were all in the house together, it really was like the happiest day of my life.
yeah,
And I was so overjoyed. I wasn't even angry. I didn't feel angry at my mother at that time. I was just
hmm,
glad that it was over and we were back. And then in the following chapter, I get this horrific phone call at work, and my whole world comes crashing down.
right.
And book two is about the 11 days following that phone call,
Hmm,
where our family has to come together to somehow deal with this unfathomable
right.
crisis. And we're
Yeah,
we're already pretty dysfunctional and
right.
scattered. And there's an opportunity for this event to bring us closer together.
Hmm,
But you've got to take that ride to find out if it brings us closer together or tears us further apart.
right,
And
right,
that's
right.
why the book sort of blossomed into a trilogy.
Yeah. And did you narrated all the others as well, I presume?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I did.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Very
yeah.
good.
There is
Um,
one more section that's kind of revealing without giving too much away. If
mhm.
you don't mind me, do we have
Oh,
time to
please.
read
Yeah,
one
no,
more
no,
short
please do.
part?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay, hang in there. I'm probably about 13 years old. So we're still in the house on L Street. This is before we've moved away to live with our God family. One afternoon, I come home from school to find my mother painting a giant orange H across two of our living room walls. It looks great, very bold and modern. What's the giant H for? I ask, admiring her work. She cocks her head, looking at her creation as if for the first time. I never saw it as an H until now. I don't know. Home? How on earth could she not see the H? More like hippie, I said. Funny. Or hi, I add. Ooh, I like that even better. Maybe it stands for help, as in God help me, my mother's a hippie. She laughed, and then she looked at me and said, I've got news for you. You're a hippie too. I have to think about that and head to the fridge for a snack. What's this pot of yellow water with stuff floating in it? Those are peyote buttons and they're not yours. Okay. I sit down to ponder. Am I a hippie? We have a bus. We eat tofu and bean sprouts. My mother wears Birkenstocks and she has copious amounts of armpit hair. Hippies are always visiting our house. and some of them like to get naked. We smoke a lot of pot. There's peyote in the fridge. Oh shit, I'm a hippie by default. This revelation makes me realize that I'll have to keep my home life secret from my friends at school. I essentially developed two personalities, each with their own wardrobe, one for school and one for home. Life becomes a double-edged sword with many pros and cons. For example, our mother stops doing anything remotely domestic for us. She simply quits her parental position in the family without giving notice. We quickly learn to take care of ourselves. Sad, but kind of funny too.
I mean, it's so, yeah, pretty crazy. You had a pretty crazy upbringing. Yeah,
I did.
yeah.
One of my best friends that I met at this tumultuous period in time, actually,
Hmm.
when we first moved back together into that apartment, was
Right,
Brad. And through Brad, I had the opportunity to work at Evergreen Lodge that I mentioned earlier.
right.
And when I got to know Brad a little bit, he looked at me one day and he said, "You're weird." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "You can make anything funny." And I thought that was pretty insightful.
Hmm.
And I think that it's one of my gifts,
Yeah,
is to
I'm
be
sure
able
it
to
helped
see
you a
the
huge
humor.
amount. Yeah,
It did. When I was
yeah.
seeing a psychiatrist after there were funds available
Hmm.
through the government for victims of violent crimes, she said you might lean into your humor too much to cope with things.
Right.
And I thought that was a fair assessment, but I also felt like if it's working, I got to keep using
Yeah,
it
true.
because it really, I don't
Yeah,
know, I don't have the other tools developed yet,
right.
to work on myself, but the humor
Yeah,
was definitely one of the tools that was helping.
yeah. So all your siblings, do you talk about your childhood with them? Do you find like, oh, we've had common experiences and now we're having common issues now later in life? Or, I mean, do you do anything like that?
Yeah, it's really interesting to look how each path developed, considering, some of the jagged edges of our past.
Right.
Um, and some of us are doing better than others. I'm sort of sorry to say,
Yeah.
I think some of the trauma, depending on what age they were as different events unfurled in our lives, had
Hmm.
different effects on them. We're all
Right.
wired a little bit differently.
Right.
Some of us learn to cope with it a little better than others. But when we do get together, there is some laughter about some of
Hmm.
the things we survived and lessons we learned that we would never put our own children through.
No.
So having that personal experience helped sort of guide us in an opposite direction. We
Right.
just
Of
didn't want
course.
our children to have to experience some of the things we did.
I mean, I even like that you called your mother. She wanted to be called Mare. Was that her choice?
Yeah, so she had this really great friend named Donna Rao that I had the pleasure of visiting in California this last summer.
Hmm.
And Donna made this big announcement. I'm just not a mama. I'm a person too. So she started asking her children to call her Donna. And so my mom picked up a lot of just hippie ways through Donna. And
Okay.
so she started that too. First, we had to call her Marilyn. And so that took some getting used to. And what was difficult was, we were the hippie house where she would let the kids come and party because she thought it was safer to have the party at our house rather than to have
Right.
kids drinking and driving. And so my friends and my sister's friends were allowed to call her mom, but we weren't. And then after
Right.
getting used to Maryland, we went camping up at Lake Berryessa, and there happened to be a cloud formation that looked like ram horns in the sky, which
Uh-huh.
she took as a symbol from Mother Nature. And at that point, she renamed herself Mare.
Right.
And I was like, what a nightmare. And she goes, what? And I said, what a nightmare, trying to get used to this new name.
Right.
And at one point, on my birthday when I was 10 years old, she wanted to rename me Jupiter. It was a magical day in Davis, California. It snowed. It never snows in the Sacramento Valley. We got let out of school. I came home and my god family was there, and my
Yeah.
sister had made a cake, and my mom started saying, "You have such a boring name. You have your father's name. Why do you want your father's name?" And I'm just a kid. I'm like, I like my name. I'm okay with it. It's short. She goes, you should change your name to Jupiter because that's your ruling planet. You're a Sagittarius.
Vegetarian.
And I'm like, I can't think of anything stupider. But I wanted to please her and I figured, oh, go ahead. You can call me Jupiter at home. And so I figured it would just go away after a while. Well, a week later, she had made some kind of tofu burritos and she went outside calling my name, Jupiter, come on, Jupiter. And my friends were like, what? And I was so embarrassed. And that's when I put my foot down and I
Yeah,
told her, I am not Jupiter. I am Tom, and I
right.
will always be Tom. And that's the only name you can call me. So this rift kind of became a defining moment, a
Yeah,
separation point in our relationship. I think she always wanted a son, Jupiter, that would adopt her hippie ways and kind of be like her. And, even though I lived 3,000 miles apart from my dad, I was going to follow a different path in life. I
right.
knew that at a really young age. When she said, you don't need to go to college, you really learn more about life by life experience. A little light went off in my head, and I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to college then. And so I did. I worked really hard in high school and I saved enough money to pay for my first semester and
Right.
I got off on a different foot than where
Yeah,
she was leading us.
yeah. No, I mean, well done. Well done.
Oh, thank you so much.
So,
I've listened to some of your other interviews and it's just an honor to be in the realm with some
oh
of the other
no,
authors.
they
I
are,
mean,
yeah.
there's
Thank
some
you.
incredible memoirs out there and I've made a list based on your
Yeah.
interviews of some other ones that are on my list now.
I
So
mean, you see what people endure. It's pretty amazing. And that they actually get through and then do well. That's
I just
quite
don't feel like I
inspiring.
would be the man I am today had I had a more traditional upbringing. I
Yep.
think it's infused into who
Yep.
I am and what
Absolutely.
I've become, and I'm not ashamed of my past. And I found it a lot easier to let go and forgive people
Yeah.
than to try to hang on
Yeah.
and use anything from the past to tie me down.
Right.
It's just not worth carrying that. And I grew up with a mom that never forgave my dad for what? I don't know. But she was always angry. And I'm like, man, that takes a lot of energy
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to carry that negative space inside your head. And I just was like, I don't want to be like that
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point because I think almost everyone that I've interviewed has at some point forgiven the people that were harming them. So maybe that is part of the parcel
Hmm.
of moving forward successfully.
Yeah,
Um, okay, so do you have a website?
I do. You can order autograph books from
Okay,
tombross.com.
okay, I'll put
And
the
my books are
information here.
available on Amazon as well. And you
Hmm.
mentioned the audiobooks, and there's
Which I
ebooks.
highly recommend.
Thank
Yes.
you. I really enjoy reading them. It's not the easiest process, and I probably talk too fast. I'm the only person that, when I listen to audiobooks, I tend to speed up the author a little bit. With
Yeah.
mine, I'm like, boy, I'm almost tempted to slow it down.
Well, you
But
get that option.
I'm going to work on my pacing a little bit. I'm working on another series. It's memoir based as well, and it's about all the
Okay.
different jobs I've had over the years. So I'm hoping that that'll be available sometime next year.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, yes, so I'm going to I'll put the information underneath here and so people can find out all about you. And do you have anything coming up, like any event that you want to make public here?
Well, it's my birthday, so
Oh, yes.
uh, no, I was invited for a book-related event in California near Davis, where I went to high school, and I found a niche of readers there because they knew me
Yeah, of course.
through the 10th grade before I moved away. So that was really nice. And I also got invited to Evergreen Lodge, which I wrote a memoir about a couple summers I worked at in the late 70s. That's more an over-the-top funny book about coming of age and in search of yourself
Okay.
as much as the next party. And so that is a lighter read. But I have nothing, substantial on the horizon other than trying to get through this next book series, which
Yeah. Wow.
turned into 3 books as well,
That's
because I've had a
amazing.
lot of different jobs.
Yeah. That's a lot of memoirs you got out now.
Yeah, and then after that, I'm done. I'm really inspired by some of the other books I'm reading. I love reading
Hmm.
outside of this genre, and
Hmm.
so I'm going to try to tackle some other ideas I've had. But
Okay.
I don't think there's much left to say about my life. So
Yeah.
it'll be fun to see if I can carry over a sense of humor into other situations. And I've got some ideas I can't wait to get
Okay.
to.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing them too.
Okay.
All
Well, I would
right.
highly encourage you to listen or read the other books.
Yeah,
And at some point, just let me know what you thought of them.
I will do. Maybe we can come back and we'll discuss another one.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
All right. Well, have a wonderful
Thank you so much,
birthday.
Nikki.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Are you going to go and do something fun now?
Oh
Hopefully.
yeah, we're gonna take the dog for a run, and then my wife's taking me out for dinner tonight, and
Perfect.
I've already gotten some nice phone calls, so it's nice to get to this age. Sometimes I feel
Yeah,
like, gosh, I'm getting so old. What happened? But then I also realize not everybody gets to experience
exactly.
old age, and what an
Yeah.
honor it
How
is.
lucky are we? Yeah.
Yes,
All right. Well, thank you
absolutely.
so much.
You're
And
welcome. Thank
hopefully we
you.
will be chatting again in the future.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
Okay.
Nikki.
Bye-bye.